Hi guys, you're welcome back to my channel. My name is Stella. So in our previous video we drafted the pattern for the dolman dress and we have also made one. So in this second video we're going to be making another style but still the same dolman dress. So here's the fabric that we're going to be working with, and I'll proceed to divide this fabric into two. So here we have it. I have divided it into two, and one will serve as the front and the other will serve as the back. Now let me go ahead and measure the length of the fabric because it's not that much. So what I have here is 38 inches. So I have it divided into two. They are both the same length. So I'll proceed to keep one aside and we will begin our cutting. Now in this video we're going to be drafting directly on the fabric. So we're starting with the back, and I have gone ahead to fold it into two and I pinned it down. So let's start our marking. Now the very first thing that we're going to be marking is a marginal line. So from the edge of the fabric I just came down by ½ inch and I ruled it across. So here's our marginal line. Now let's begin our marking. So I'm going to be using a neck width of 3 inches. And for this style also, whatever your shoulder measurement is, you need to add 1 inch to it. So I'm working with a shoulder measurement of 16 and I'll add 1 inch to it, making it 17. So 17 inches divided by 2 will give us 8.5 inches. And I'm also adding ½ inch for joining. Remember, we are marking on the fabric, so we're adding on our allowances. Now we're going to be sloping the shoulder also with 1 inch. It's almost the same thing that we did on the pattern. Now the neckline depth for the back is 1 inch. So I'll go ahead and mark it and I will connect these measurements. Remember, neck width 3 inches, neck depth 1 inch for the back, and the shoulder slope is also 1 inch. Now I just hope you can see all I'm marking because the fabric is light. So I just hope you can see all my marking so far. Now let's proceed to mark the chest line, and the chest line is simply your bust round divided by 6 plus 1.5, and I'm working with a bust round of 40. So 40 inches divided by 6 plus 1.5 will give us 8.1 inches, and we're going to add the 1 inch shoulder slope, making it a total of 9.1 inches. And I'll proceed to mark it here, and I'll mark it somewhere there as well so that I can get a straight line. Then I will rule a straight line across. So this is our chest line. Now if you notice, you see that I'm struggling with the fabric. So this is one of the beauty of pattern drafting, because it saves you the stress of struggling with your fabric. Well, let's continue since we've already started. Now on the chest line, I'm going to remark half of my shoulder plus the ½ inch for joining. So in total I have 9 inches marked on the chest line again, and I will connect it to the shoulder slope using a straight line. So this is it. Moving on, we need to mark the rest of the vertical measurement. So I will place my tape on the starting point and we will start our markings. So with my tape on the marginal line, I'll go ahead and mark my shoulder to my waist, which is 17 inches. So I'm making a mark on 17 inches, and from my shoulder to my hip length is 26 inches. So I will also make a mark at 26 inches, and already we have our full length, which is 38 inches. So we have two measurements here, the waist length and the hip length, and we'll proceed to mark the round measurements. So I'm working with a bust round of 40, and 40 inches divided by 4 will give us 10 inches. So I have my tape placed on the chest line, and I'll make a mark at 10 inches first. Then we're also adding our ease of 1.5 inches, and I'll also add 1.5 inches as my side seam allowance. So in total, what I have on the chest line is 13 inches. Now, like I mentioned when we're drafting the pattern, whatever you have on your chest line, you need to repeat it on your waistline. And this is because of the style that we're working with. So in total, what I have on my chest line, which is my bust round divided by 4 plus the ease plus the side seam allowance, is 13. And I'll go ahead and mark 13 inches on the waist length as well. Now let's move over to the hip length. So I'm working with a hip round of 46. And 46 inches divided by 4 will give us 11.5 inches. I'll make a mark at 11.5 inches. I'm also adding my ease of 1.5 inches and my side seam allowance of 1.5 inches. So Here we have it. Now, whatever you have on your hip length, you will need to mark it on the hemline. But for now, let's connect all our points. So I'm connecting from the chest line to the waist using a straight line. And I'll go ahead and connect from the waist to the hip using the slightly curved part of the pattern master. So I'm doing exactly what I did in the pattern drafting video. So if you've not seen that video, you may need to see it so you will understand, because the fabric is not allowing my chalk to be visible enough. Now I'll simply extend our measurement on the hip line to the hemline using a straight line. Now I'll go ahead and reshape the hemline. So I'm coming up this line by 2.5 inches. Remember, the length is not that long. So I'm coming up from the hemline by 2.5 inches so that I can reshape the hem. And I'll come in with my pattern master as well. And I'll simply just connect it this way. Yeah. And here we have it. I have reshaped the hemline. I ended up using freehand to finish up the reshaping. Now, remember I came up from the hemline by 2.5 inches to reshape. Now let's move over to the armhole to draw our armhole curve. So for the back, I will simply get the midpoint of this line and I will go inwards by ½ inch. So I will go ahead and connect it using my straight line first. You guys know this is how I like to connect my armhole curve. Now, like I mentioned when we were drafting the pattern, if your outfit has ease and you want to connect your armhole curve, you need to first connect your armhole curve to your actual bust round measurement and not to the ease. This is the only way that you can get a perfect armhole curve. So I proceed to connect the curve to my bust round divided by 4, which we got as 10. And here we have it. I have connected the armhole curve for the back. Now we will need to add our joining allowance, which is ½ inch. So I'll go ahead and mark ½ inch on the shoulder slope for the joining of the shoulder, and I will connect it upwards. So this is it. Remember that we have every other allowance added to these, and we're not adding any allowance to the neckline. So I'll proceed to cut this out and we will continue. And here we have it. I'm done cutting it out. Now you also need to notch the center back, which I just did. So this is it. Now you also need to notch the waist length, and I'll do that later. So let's move over to the front. And here is the front fabric. Now from the folded part of the fabric, I will mark 1.5 inches. Now this is the very first thing you're doing on the front. So I will go ahead and mark 1.5 inches away from the folded part, and I also connected it using a straight line. So I will come in with the back fabric that we just cut out, and I'm going to place it on that 1.5 inches line. So we're going away by 1.5 inches for the front, and I will place the back fabric on that line that we just marked. And I will just proceed to arrange it properly, and I will pin it down. You guys know the importance of pinning. So this is it. I have pinned it down. Remember, I have it pinned. I have the back pinned on 1.5 inches away from the folded part of the front. Now, we are going to be cutting out exactly the same thing. So I'll come in with my scissors and we're going to cut this out. So here we have it. Now we need to reshape the neckline depth for the front. Remember, the back neckline depth, we use 1 inch. So for the front, we're going to be using 3 inches as the front neckline depth. So I'll take off my pin away from the neckline and I'll measure 3 inches with my tape, and I'll make a mark there. Now I will proceed to just connect it to the neck width of 3 inches. Yeah. And here we have it. So I've connected the neckline depth of 3 inches for the front. Now I'll go ahead and cut this out. And here we have it. I have reshaped the front neckline. So I'll proceed to take off the pins on the fabric so that we can keep the back aside. And this is it. I've taken off the pins. So what we have here now is the front fabric. Now, if you look at the style, it has a slit on the front. So I want the length of the slit in total to be 8 inches. You remember we have taken off 3 inches. So I have my tape outward by that 3 inches. And I'll make a mark at 8.5 inches. Remember, it needs to be wide enough so that your head can pass through. So I'll make the depth of the neckline to be 8.5 inches. All right, so I earlier marked 8, but I decided to just make it 8.5 inches in total. So here we have it. Now, I'll come in with my scissors and we need to cut the center front open. Remember, the center front is not on fold. But before I do that, I'll take us through the sewing process. So I'll take this to my sewing machine and I'm going to use a loose stitch to sew from the neckline depth to that 8.5 inches mark that I have there. And from there, I will back stitch and use a tight stitch all the way to the hem. So that's the way we're going to be sewing. Now, I just cut the center front open. So I'll use a loose stitch from the neckline there to the 8.5 inches, back stitch, then use a tight stitch all the way to the hem, just the same way that we fix our zip, and I will press it open. So afterwards, I'll join the shoulder and we'll take it up from there. And here we have it. I've joined the center front, all right, and I have also taken off the loose stitches that I have on the neckline and I pressed it flat using my hemming gum. I also went ahead to join the shoulder like I explained. Now, if you take a look at the inside, you will see that I pressed a 1.5 inches allowance flat. So this is it. So I also used hemming gum to press it flat because you need that area flat. Now I will go ahead and overlock the rough edges much later, and I will also use my hemming gum to press it flat. Now, if you take a look at the neckline, you will see that I used my interfacing to iron down around the neckline so that the neckline will not stretch any further. Remember, this is a lightweight fabric. So I will go ahead and measure around the neckline. Now, interfacing your neckline is important so that you're sure of the measurement that you're getting. So I always like to do this. Now, I'll proceed to measure around the neckline so that we can draft our bishop collar. So when measuring your neckline, it's advisable that you stretch it out so that you can get the accurate figure. Now, what I have here is 19.5 inches. So I'll come in with a fresh pattern paper and we will draft our bishop collar. So before we jump into the drafting of the collar, let me take us through what I did on the waist length. You remember the notch I told us to make on the waist length? Now I went ahead to use a straight line to draw across that waist length. So this is where we're going to be attaching our drawstring casing. So I did the same thing on the front and on the back. So I simply used a straight line to draw across the waist length. Now I'll keep this aside and I'll come in with the pattern paper for the bishop collar. And here we have it. I have my marginal line drawn on the paper and this side is going to be unfold. So this is the unfold sign that I just marked there. So let's begin our measurements. Remember, we got 19.5 as our round neckline. So we're going to divide that into 2 and it will give us 9.75. So I'm measuring from the closed side to the open side. So I will come up here and I'll also mark 9.75 so that we can get a straight line. And I will draw a line across this way. So this is it. Remember, our neck round, I divided it into 2. And we need to get the middle of this line. So I'll measure everything I have here and I'll divide it into 2. And I'll make a mark at this midpoint. So the next thing we're going to do is to go up the open side by ½ inch. So from this open side, I will go up this line by ½ inch and I'll use a straight line or a slightly curved line to connect it to that midpoint. Yeah. The next thing we need to mark is the height of the collar, and I want the height of the collar to be 1.25 inches. So I'll place my tape on this line and I will mark 1.25 inches all the way. So here we have it. Now I'll go ahead and connect it. And like I'll always say, use a straight line from the folded part to the middle then you use the slightly curved part of the pattern master or your French curve to finish up the curve. Now from the end of this curve this way, you need to come inwards by 0.25, or you can just use your free hand to reshape, but 0.25 is the guide. So this is it. I will use my free hand to reshape that part. All right, and here we have it. Our bishop collar is ready. Now I will go ahead and cut this out.
No.
So here we have it. The bishop collar is ready, and I'll proceed to transfer it to the fabric, and I'll be cutting two of it. One will be the lining and one will serve as the fashion fabric. And here we have it. I have transferred it to the fabric and I have ironed down my interfacing. So after you're done ironing down your interfacing, you will need to fold 0.5 inch upwards using your pressing iron this way. So I hope you can see it. Then you also need to notch the top part. Now I have a very detailed, extremely detailed video on how to transfer your bishop collar to the fabric the easiest way. All right, so I'll drop the link in the description box so you go see it, but I'm doing exactly the same thing. Now you also need to notch the center part of the bishop collar, because that's where you're going to be attaching to the center of the back neckline. So this is it. Now when joining my bishop collar, I like sewing from the inside towards the outside, but you can also sew from your outside, as from the right side of the fabric towards the wrong side of the fabric. Either way is correct. Now I'll go ahead and align the center of the collar to the center of the back neckline, and I'll go ahead and sew it round. Now the moment I'm done with the collar, I will join the sides using 1.5 inches allowance that we left. So I will join the collar and I will join the sides as well. Now let's look at the drawstring casing. So here is the fabric, and I went ahead to cut out a long piece of fabric. Now the width in total is 2 inches. So I used my iron to fold in 1/2 inch on both sides. So I'm left with 1 inch width. Now I also cut out a tiny piece of fabric for the drawstring, which is also your belt. So I have these two. Now I'll go ahead and join the sides and the collar first. Then we will look at the drawstring later. So here we have it. I have joined the sides. I have finished with the bishop collar. So you can see I've joined the collar and I pressed it. I've also joined the sides. Now, I also went ahead to attach my pocket, and I'll take us through what I did. Now, from the shoulder width, I came down by 9 inches. And from the center front, from that joining that we have on the center front, I came inwards by 1.5 inches and I fixed my pocket. Now, the width of my pocket is 5 inches and the length of the pocket is 5 inches. So that's all I did for the pocket. Now, let's look at the drawstring casing. So we're going to be placing it in the middle of the line that we drew on the waistline. You remember the line I showed us? So I will go ahead and place that. But before then, we will need to mark the spacing. So I'll come in with my tape and I'll go away by 1.5 inches from the center front, and I'll also repeat the same thing on this other side. So in total, I went away by 3 inches from the center, and I'll come in with the drawstring casing. And we're going to be placing it right in the middle of the waistline. So I will place it this way and I'll top stitch on both sides. That is one option. Another option is to go ahead and open it up this way. So you stitch down inside, then you top stitch just on one side. It's all your choice, but I'm going to be top stitching both sides. Afterwards, I will use my pin to pass through the drawstring. So I'll do this and we'll move over to the sleeve. So here is the sleeve. I have gone ahead to cut it out. So the sleeve is going to be a shirt sleeve. So we can call it a bishop shirt sleeve. Now the length of the sleeve is 24 inches and includes all the allowances. So here it is. I'll go ahead and cut it in form of a shirt sleeve. I also have a detailed video on how to cut a shirt sleeve. Now it will be having a band of 1.25 inches. And here we have it. I have attached the band, and the width of the band is 1.25 inches. So This is it. I did the same thing here as well. So it's actually a simple sleeve. The same thing, if you know how to cut your shirt sleeve, is the same thing that I did. Now I cut this out because we're going to be attaching it on the sleeve, and the length is 6 inches. So the length is 6 inches and the width is 0.75 inch. So I'm going to be attaching it on the wrong side of the sleeve, right on the center front, but I'll be attaching it on the wrong side. So I'll be using it to turn up the sleeve when I want to. Now I'll go ahead and attach the sleeve to the armhole, but before then, let me show us the drawstring that I stitched. So here it is. I have stitched it round, as you can see. Now, at this point, before you attach your drawstring, it's advisable that you fit the gown to be sure that your measurement is correct. Because the moment you attach the drawstring, you will not be able to make further adjustments on the side. So I'll go ahead and join the sleeve, and here we have it. I have joined the sleeve. This is a beautiful gown, or I'll call it a top because it's not that long, but you can actually wear it as a gown if the length is not too short for you. So I love this. I especially the colors. I think they are happy colors. I'm in love with bright colors. So I have pressed it everywhere, and I have overlocked the rough edges, as you can see. This is very important because the inside of your outfit should be the same way as the outside, should be as clean as possible. So this is it. Go ahead and wear it on the mannequin for us to see. And here we have it. Pairing it with a leggings has its own beauty. It's lovely, and wearing it alone is equally awesome. This is beautiful. You can see the neckline, you can see the bishop collar, how the stitches came out neat, and you can see the pocket as well. I really don't know why this breast pocket is there, because we don't actually put anything inside. I guess it's just for the beautification, if you ask me. So this is it. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you so much. Kindly like this video, share it with someone or your sewing group because it will be beneficial to someone. And I will see you in my next one. Bye.
Yeah.